Hi. Take into account media reports about what is currently happening regarding the burial of the man we just lost recently, Double HP, around the fact that there is conflict between his family and the woman that he was in love with, that his family has banned her from his funeral and she has taken the family to court to interdict the funeral from happening. And all of this is as a result of whether there is actually a marriage between Double HP and Lerato. So I thought it might be a good idea just to clarify a few things, taking into account that I have gone into Facebook and other social media and realized that people are actually peddling wrong information out there about what is a valid customary marriage. So this is just me seeking to clarify a few things. In South Africa, we have a law called the Recognition of Customary Marriages Act. The law states clearly as to what is a customary marriage. There are requirements for it. Firstly, the people who are getting married must be above the age of 18. Secondly, they must have agreed to get married in terms of customary law. The third requirement is that the marriage must be negotiated and entered into or celebrated in line with customary law. Customary law being nothing more than the customs and usages traditionally observed amongst us as Black people. Now, it was difficult in the beginning to really determine what are the customs, what are the usages amongst us Black people, taking into account that we have different ethnic groups within South Africa, and each ethnic group has, their own way of doing things. However, this is not the first time that we've had people fighting over whether one is married or not. So in the past, there have been people who have gone through to the courts and asked the courts to determine as to whether somebody was married or not. And we are lucky in the sense that the courts have actually clarified for us what constitutes a customary marriage. And it can be summarized as follows. Firstly, there must be a delegation that is sent from the men's home to the woman's home to start the lobola negotiations. The negotiations will then be conducted, lobola agreed upon. Whether the lobola is paid or not paid, that's not really the issue. The issue is that it must be agreed upon. Once it's agreed upon, then there should be the exchange of gifts between the two families. There should be a slaughtering of the beast. There should be a celebration of the wedding. But then the most crucial part that needs to happen is that there should be the handover of the bride to the bridegroom's family. And for the bridegroom family to accept her as their makoti or bride, so to say. Now, once there has been a handing over of the bride to the bridegroom's family, that is when we can say there is a valid customary marriage. If there has not been any celebration or handover of the bride to the bridegroom family, then there is no customary marriage according to our courts, according to our law. So, which would mean that in this case, if we're looking at the case, one doesn't have all of the facts, but one can safely say if there was a delegation sent to the Singadi family, lobola negotiations were entered into, there was a celebration of the marriage after the negotiations had been completed, and there was the handover of the bride. Lerato's family actually took her to the Zambo family and she got accepted there. Then there is a customary marriage. A customary marriage, that is a marriage in community of property. Okay. So the likelihood is when they go to court, if all of those things I've mentioned have happened, the likelihood is that the court will declare her as the customary law wife, which would mean that half the Jabu's family would then have to hand over all of the things that they have in their possessions to her as the spouse. However, if not all of the processes have been followed, then it basically means that there was no marriage, especially if she was not handed over to the family of the deceased. Let's just say Lobolo negotiations happened and Lobolo was paid. From there, she then went and lived with the deceased. The courts are very clear that in such a situation, that is nothing more than a cohabitation, what we refer to normally as fat and set. So regardless of how long she has stayed with him, she would not be the wife if there was no handover done during the process. However, if handover was done, because I've heard there's reports that she had left their common household. If she had been married, the fact that she left the household does not mean anything. She would still be the wife, because as when you are married in terms of customary law, the only way to end your marriage is through a divorce decree. You have to go to court and get a divorce like any normal, like a civil, in a civil marriage. So at the end of the day, what is going to be the determining factor is whether all of the processes for a customary marriage have been followed or not. If they were followed, then the court, as I said, would most likely declare her the wife. But if not, then unfortunately she would only have the status of a girlfriend, and girlfriends in South Africa do not have the right to bury their boyfriends who have passed on, as much as boyfriends do not have the right to bury their girlfriends in case that the passed on. So tomorrow I will do a video that looks at, what is it that you need to do to avoid falling into this kind of situation if you are intending to get into a customary marriage or you're already in a customary marriage. But then in the meantime, I do hope that the two families will meet. There is still enough time for them to meet before the court hearing tomorrow, and that peace will prevail, and that they will agree to bury Double HP with the dignity that he deserves. May his soul rest in peace.